Hi, everyone. Welcome to another Oxygen podcast. Today, I want to talk about the word or the sentence or the subject matter of climate change. It is a topic that really has polarized experts in the field. Some say that climate change is something that we need to address now. We need to take action on it now. And there's another camp that says, well, climate change is all good and well, but who's going to pay the bills on this industry that we don't know what's going to happen in a few years from now, and whether or not the investment that's going to be made is it going to have actually any impact on our daily lives? Because everyone knows the sky is wide, wide, deep and high. So, where do we start? So that's the conversation I want to have with you guys, and there are a few points I want to address, and then I'll let you guys sort of jump in the conversation. Please subscribe to the channel, get involved in the conversation, and let me know your thoughts. What do you think about climate change? And when you hear this word, how does it make you feel? So let's begin. So the first thing I want to talk about is the climate change conversation sounds like a lofty undertaking. It's a big undertaking in the sense that it's capital intensive. There's no direction in terms of what can be expected as an outcome, and the investment that's required isn't going to be enough just from the private sector. So who's the other big actor? Who's the big elephant in the room that needs to come in and put some money into it? It's governments. And where do the governments get their money from? Either they print money or it's from taxes. And if you're going to take people's taxes and throw it into these initiatives, at some point, if people are paying more than they can actually contribute, there might be civil unrest. The second aspect is the ROI, the return on investment. Investors that want to contribute to any industry want to know exactly what it is that's being produced, how is it going to be sold, and when are they going to get their money back. That's how typically investors think. And with this industry, there's no end in sight, meaning that people that are in this industry, in this industry space, the startups can't really give a solid answer to investors that, hey, if you throw money our way, we're going to give you this money back in a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. There's no immediate return on it. So investor community is really, really hesitant. The big question, the big challenge then comes to, well, how do we make it practical? How do we make it relevant? And how do we make the ROI immediate? The next aspect, obviously, in this conversation are the regulatory bodies and the regulatory policies, the risks involved. The number one risk that I can see is how do governments get citizens to comply with climate change initiatives? And there's really two ways of doing it. Either you give them tax incentives or you penalize them. So you either give them an incentive to change the way that they're living and adopting new technologies through a tax incentive strategy, or you say if you don't comply, it's a bit of a coercive approach. We're going to fine you. Neither one seems to be working at this point, and citizens are scratching their head, going, why do I have to comply with something that we don't really know that has a direct impact, as an immediate impact, first and foremost on their own well-being, and second on the greater good of schemes, meaning the society at large. So there's a bit of an ambiguity in this regard, and that needs to be really addressed. So the other part of the problem with the climate change conversation is that it's not measurable. There are many startups getting involved, that are super excited about getting involved in this industry space, rightfully so, because they're concerned about the future of their planet, but there are no metrics, there's no uniformity, there's no collective action to take on this challenge together. Now, one of the things that I'm a big advocate of is cooperation and collaboration across creative minds. Well, the problem with this industry is if everyone's tackling this issue on their own, in their own niche space, there isn't a real practical way of sharing knowledge amongst the experts. So as a result, the metrics that are being derived at or that comes out of all of these activities doesn't really tell us or doesn't provide us with indications that they're moving in the right direction. And the last part of the conversation I want to sort of talk about is consumer adoption. It's lagging. People want to get involved. They want to feel good about doing something great for the planet. But right now, the conversation doesn't resonate. It doesn't connect with them. So, what do we do? And this is the key part. What do we do to get citizens, to get individuals to feel connected with this conversation? And I think, from my perspective, and what we're doing at Oxygen is by changing the conversation. And I cannot emphasize this enough. We need to make sure people understand that climate change has a direct impact on their lives. What part of their lives? The first aspect is health and wellness. And this is not something that's being discussed, not at the conferences, not at seminars, not at think tanks. We have to make the conversation practical in terms of its relevance to people's lives. And this is what we're doing with Oxygen right now. We want to educate the public. We want to provide the relevant information that, hey, bad pollution air has ramifications on your respiratory system, on your immune system, on your brain function, on your vital organs, on your gut health, all of it. If you don't believe me, hold your breath for 90 seconds, right? I rest my case. We need to breathe clean air. But the issue is, how do we make this relevant to people's lives? And that's where I think this whole conversation about climate change needs to change, and it needs to feel more relevant so that people like you and I can get involved and take direct action. Once that happens at the grassroots level, then we can start pushing the other actors, the governments, the investors involved, and getting them to comply with certain actions that are practical, that are real, and they're economically beneficial. Hope this was a positive, constructive conversation. I'd love to hear from you. Please leave your comments down below. Get involved in this conversation because, believe it or not, climate change and good quality air is something that we need to address right now before it's too late, before we pollute the world and breathing becomes difficult. And I've been to many cities and many countries with poor air quality, and trust me, we're shortening our lifespan if pollution becomes epidemic worldwide.